Art for Change podcast, where creativity and empowerment unite. Streaming live every Monday, Thursday, and Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern. We got Motion Monday, Therapeutic Thursday, and Soul Food Sunday. If you like what you see, book your seat. We turn up the heat with your Art for Change.
That's what happens with love. So now love becomes this unicorn that everybody wants, but nobody can find, but we all crave. We all desire it. We all fiend for it. Like that fiend who's seen the needle stashed in the haystacks, he unstashed it, and he packed it with that arm match, and he latched his bicep with the black strap, with the tip of that needle melting to his veins. Hey, bro, stop, man. No, bro, you just can't walk up here. What? No, you just can't walk up here. This is the middle of the show. The shit is being taken. Matter of fact, why are you here anyway? We can't do shit without you feeling like you gotta be part of it. You're intentional, right? You want me to introduce? You want me to introduce you? I introduce you. People, excuse me, sorry about the interruption. People, Cupid, people. You good now? So hopefully you can, matter of fact, you know what? I don't want you to go. I need you to do something for me. Since you're here, first I need you to cut your ring, bro. And since you're here, I need you to come up here. No, not right now, because right now you're on my time. But since you came in here, I need you to come up here and explain to these people the contents of this wicked concoction. Since you're here, maybe you can come up here and help us read the fine print as an emotional contract. This shit is mind altering. Yes, it's mind altering. You've been ushering folks to the altar and altering lives for many scores. Maybe you can come tell us more about it, right? Like, how pure is it? Tell us that. How pure is it? Is it Lake Minnetonka? Or is it just toxins diluted with lies and pollution? Matter of fact, tell me that it's as pretty as it feels the day you impale us with it, not just some mind-altering, manipulative. You need to tell us something. Tell me it's fact. At minimum, just do that. Tell me love is fact. Tell me it's fact. Tell me love is fact. You ain't just been flying around here with these faulty arrows, injecting folk with these falsehoods. Tell me it's fact. Is it fact or is it fairy tale? Matter of fact, is it fair to tell my daughter that it's safe for her to catch it? Is this thing really a vacation or just some vaccination against it? I just need you to come up here and tell us something. At minimum, just tell us what does it come with. Is love purely a feeling, or is it a forcing function for dysfunctional behavior? Because I've seen love do some stuff that'll make hate blood. And I see you over there laughing, but you should be pending criminal charges for all these aerial arrows that you keep aiming in crowded areas, claiming hearts without consent. I've seen love concealed on unlicensed carriers that never learned to carry it, and that impact is kicking that ass. So all we're asking is that at some point you can come up here, not right now, though, right now you're on my time. We're just asking that you come up here and help us hash this out, so we can stop hashtagging the word hurt. If you can do that in 30 nights, so we'll be okay. But right now, I need you to let me be right. I apologize. I was explaining how it's not control. It controls you. It's that universal remote control that turns every soul into an animal. You become untamed the second you touch it. It's that torch in your upper torso. It's that yearn that you burn for, that lucid yet overused airway. It's better heard through held hands, locked eyes, and aligned hearts. The O is shaped like a halo. It's the same V that we use to spell victory. Vindictive. And the E is just, Mike, here we go, we're back. It just remains silent because it already knows what's about to happen. Like love, the greatest fairy tale ever. The oldest folk tale ever. The coldest joke ever wrote. It's a myth. No matter of fact, it's a moth. Amazed by these bright lights until it gets burnt. You learn me 11 people who have experienced love that wasn't paired with pain. I'm away. You can't, right? Can't. Because it's always paired with pain. So how often must one thing contain another thing before we start looking at those two things as being one and the same? Most of us are looking for a love that we've never seen evidence of. A figment of our imagination, furnished through film and stage plays. On the movies, emotions are emoted through piano keys and violin strings. Teary-eyed clouds cry romantic raindrops as the lovebirds shake the weather from their feathers. They hold hands and they dance, never letting the downpour dampen their smile. Their feet are patting in these high puddles of water, but ironically, their pant legs never get wet, right? And then let's take Lorenz Tate. This man gets an address off a check, shows up to the check's doorstep, and that's accepted, correct? One of the most beloved scenes ever seen. See, shit's euphoric on the flat screen, but it fades like fool's gold the second that you bring it home. The dictionary denotes it as a noun. What does that mean? A noun. That means a person, place, a thing, which means it's not a verb. It's not an action word. No action is required. The dictionary also says that love is a subsidiary of sex, and then movie sets says clarinets and purple sunsets. And then you got Corinthians. Corinthians says that love is patient. I'm a man who has cheated and been cheated on. So you tell me it's okay for patience to run out of a door that keeps being cracked open to sneak outside the trash. And Corinthians also says that love doesn't show wrath, which is asinine. I done been mad at every love I done ever had. Then it says love is kind. Well, there's a thin line between kind and kind of crazy. When that crazy kind thinks that love isn't being appreciated. I've seen millions of casualties that have been claimed by killers who claim to love them. And then Corinthians says that love shows no record of wrong. Lord, my love is a secretary with a file cabinet loaded with file transactions. So I come to you asking, how do I talk my love into putting a legend out? A reliable definition is unidentifiable, like a food fight. Oops, I mean like a flying saucer. So there's a flying saucer. Oops, I mean food for thought for all you love lovers. Love is a manifestation of your imagination. And the best that you can hope for is finding someone that sees it the same way. To you and your hearts, each day. Love isn't enough. When it comes to togetherness, love isn't enough for togetherness. Togetherness is comprehensive. If anybody ever heard the term comprehensive fitness is a holistic level of fitness where you are mentally fit, you're emotionally fit, you are spiritually fit, you're physically fit. That's comprehensive fitness, right? There's subcategories that have to be in place in order for this thing to exist to its fullest extent. That's how togetherness is. Togetherness is comprehensive. It's an oak tree. Love is just one of the branches on the oak tree. It's like fitness. Fitness is an oak tree, and weightlifting is just one of the branches on the oak tree. But then there's other branches. There's proper sleep. There's dietary habits. There's cardio, right? So if I only acknowledge the weightlifting, I'll never reach optimal fitness. If I use the weightlifting and the cardio, but not the proper sleep and the diet, I'll never reach optimal fitness. That's how togetherness is. If love is the only branch you acknowledge, but you're not acknowledging regard, you're not acknowledging emotional intelligence, you're not acknowledging emotional support, then your relationship will never reach optimal fitness. And I'm a firm believer that the main one is understanding and compromise. I don't care how much you explore those other branches. If you don't explore understanding and compromise, your relationship will never reach optimal fitness. None of us are the same. We're all different. And then we try to go in an 800 square feet house and coexist as one, right? There's going to be some differences, right? We're not going to always align. There's going to be some gaps. But with a little understanding and compromise, we can bridge those gaps, right? It's a little bit off. Understanding and compromise to bridge that gap. But let's talk about the difference between compromise and abandonment. Compromise will bridge this gap. But when this is the gap, when the unalignment is so far off, compromise can't bridge this. Now somebody has to completely abandon who they are and become what the relationship wants them to be in order to bridge that gap, right? Abandonment. My father came to visit me and didn't leave for 2 years. This was the longest fucking visit on planet Earth. My father was born in Vicksburg, Mississippi in 1950. He's a traditional Southern man who was raised to believe that he needs to operate with authority. Everything he do, you run a household through authority. When you talk, you do it in an authoritative manner. My father don't even know how to form a question. Even if it's supposed to be a question, he don't know how to form a question. My father sat in my house, on my couch, in my living room, about 10 feet from my refrigerator, and when I walked down my stairs, he'd tell me, hey, give me the water out of the refrigerator before you go upstairs. Right? That's supposed to be a question. So if you give me the water out of the refrigerator before you go upstairs. He don't even know how to form the question. I heard him call somebody that's his age, one of his friends. Their voicemail came on, hey, I'm calling your phone. Pick up your phone. You need to call me back. So you don't know how to ask anything. This is my father. And he's talking to a man who don't like authority at all. So it's an absolute contrast in character traits. My father loves me to death. And I love him to death. And when my father loves you, he's extremely helpful. Too damn helpful. I was talking to my father one day, and I was telling him, I said, yeah, I got an appointment tomorrow at VA. I got to be up there at such and such time. I got to be there at 7, so I'm going to leave here at 6 so I can get there on time. So I got my alarm clock for about 5:15 set, right? I get a phone call about 4:30 in the morning. It's my father calling me from downstairs. Hey, I was just reminding you that you had that appointment. And I'm sitting there trying not to headbutt the wall. And I said, oh, okay. And he hung up. And he was probably thinking, I just helped my son. And went back to sleep. And I'm thinking to myself, you just fucked off my last 35 minutes of sleep. My father would cook, and when he would cook, he would call me, hey, the food done. And I'd come downstairs, and I'm at the stove. He'd get up off the couch, and he'd walk over there, and he'd say, look, so let me tell you how, this is how you fix the plates. You put the mashed potatoes first, you put that first, and you see that meat right there, the sauce around the meat, that's great. You put that, and I'm standing there the whole time, and he over my shoulder, and I'm trying to be receptive, right? But the inside of my body is saying, chunk the fucking plate up and just, right? So this was my father. And the only way, I told my father, listen, the only way for us to maintain a close-knit relationship is we got to create some distance geographically. And I had to put my father out of my house because of the way he loved me. We were two different people. In order for us to coexist, he would have to abandon who he was as a person and become who I needed him to be, or I was going to have to abandon who I am as an adult and become a child that he can tell what to do. And neither one of us was willing to do that, so we had to sever ties. Right? This is the difference between compromise and abandonment. Right? I bought a house here in Las Vegas. And when I bought this house, it wasn't built yet. Right? And I went into it. I knew it wasn't exactly what I wanted, but I didn't have the funds to just go buy an empty plot of land, give somebody my blueprint, and say, hey, build my dream. So I had to go find the closest thing to it and then modify it and make it work for me. So I closed on this house on one day. The next day, contractor was in the house, tearing down walls, putting up carpet, adding tile, making all these modifications. Now, the house probably lost value, because it used to be a 4-bedroom, and that's a 3-bedroom, so I lost living space. But it's working for me, right? So all the modifications, they're working for me. So it probably won't do well on the market, but it's working for me. It's the same thing we do in relationships. You run into somebody, and you're not completely what I want, but as soon as I close on the relationship, I'm going to start doing a little construction. It changes stuff, right? You might as well cancel that. Cancel that. Brother, I go on a girls trip every year with my kids. That's because you was with me. You with me now, so you might as well, you don't need to go on a trip with a whole bunch of single women anyway. But they not single, they be acting single, we got to love them. So be able to abandon that part of you, right? Because you think you're doing what's best for the relationship. So you abandon that part of you, right? And then you say, you know what? I think I'm gonna go ahead and sign up for school. Remember I was telling you about school, I wanted to study abroad. Study who? Abroad. Study abroad, you get it? No, stupid, not abroad. I want to study overseas. Oh, you know, going to cancel that. Yeah, I know you were talking about it before, but now what I'm supposed to do? Like you overseas studying abroad, and I'm just here by myself. So now you abandon that because you want to do what's best for the relationship. And then you abandon something else, and then you abandon something else, and then you abandon something else, and eventually you look and your old self is way over here, and it's just a wrinkled up old shell, and you done became everything the relationship needs you to be. And you can't even define happiness anymore. Only happiness you know is the vicarious happiness that you experience with other people you make happy. But if somebody say, take everybody else out of the equation, what is happiness for you? You don't even know what it is. Your whole identity has become that relationship. You're customized for that one person. And now the relationship ends, and your modified as you stay. You're probably not going to do well on the morning. So now you spend the next few years of your life walking around trying to figure out who you are. Because you have completely abandoned yourself and became in the relationship needed you to be. And the person that you did that for is somewhere gone. So eventually you get enough courage and you get back in the dating scene, you're dating, and somebody like, I would really love to get to know you. And you're thinking, I would really love to get to know me too. But when love's aligned, it's like two parallel lines that's floating towards the same line. And like, the art of like, is at an all-time heroin high. So now love has no choice but to take the flight. Right? And that connection, it feels aircraft. It's as comfy as first class with cool stewards, and the pilot is lit, and that seatbelt light is always unlit. So that means we can walk around comfortable in it. Even if there's turbulence and things turn topsy-turvy, we can talk it through in a turbo space because we understand sometimes taking it slow is the quickest way to get to a solution. This is what it feels like when love's aligned. It's like everything dead inside comes alive. Healthy vitals like one-a-day vitamin, spirits vibrant, sunsets vibrant, heartstrings turn violin. When love's aligned, it's like laying in red wine and sipping on love songs through the grapevine. When it's right, you feel late. It's like drawing a line in the sand, both standing on the same side, damn near agreeing on every grain. But then you got these mates that feel like cellmates. Like they're sharing the bed with their bunkie. And they can't wait to get pardoned so they can go find another partner. They're screaming at the top of their throat for the COs, please come pop the door before I kill this one. But then you got to turn until death do us part. That shit's taking too long. That shit's taking too long to come to fruition. So you can wishing that their heart stopped ticking. And then you got the 5 heartbeats that done lied to you about love's residence. What they told you, they told you, right? And you think, well, I need my heart to be remarkable a duplex, and I can't do it with you. You need to move to the other side, reside somewhere out of seeing range of my eyes. This is what it's like when love's not alive. It's like you're living in a 2-bed, 1-bath in a distinct living room. A lion's den. We carve each other up like carnivores. The love is on pause and the claws are out. The angry rage like we ain't got pride to raise. Love is an art. You just gotta hope that the way you and your partner draw a heart is somewhat similar. Love is like that employee that gets overworked. You ever get a job, as soon as you get the job, they see how reliable you are, so they start throwing you all these additional tasks that ain't got shit to do with your duty description. Before you know it, you got 100 jobs and that one job, but they ain't never talked to you about renegotiating pay. You know what I mean? And when one of these other 100 jobs they gave you, when it don't get done right, they come and say, you know, that the such and such is because I don't know how to fucking do that. That's why it's messed up. I wasn't hired for it, I was hired for this. And then when your job don't get done, they come to you talking about progress. We notice that your productivity is starting to lower. You want to talk? Yeah, I want to talk about it. I'm a janitor. Then you got me in some room closet circumcising puppies. I don't know how to do that. So now you're wondering why the puppy nuts is fucked up in the bathroom not clean. Because I don't know how to do that, and I ain't got enough time to do this, right? This is how love is. We get love and we add all this laundry list of expectations to love. So when somebody says they love me, they're automatically supposed to assume these tasks. This is an illusion that we operate under. Right? I don't think that's the case. I don't think love has all these things that are byproducts of it. I don't think love is a mandate for all that behavior. Now, you ever meet somebody who broke, they ain't got nothing, but they ain't doing nothing, and you don't understand it, you confused? Because you think hustle is a byproduct of broke. If you broke, you should, if there's broke, there should be hustle. They're like good cousins. Anyone you see one, You see us, right? That's your mentality. How is there broke here, but there's no hustle here? You don't understand it, right? I think what it does, what love does, it initiates intentionality. So within you, you have initiated intentionality for you to go hustle, but it didn't happen right here. This person just got comfortable being uncomfortable. So it's not an automatic mandate. What if I got a knife and I cut anybody in here? What do you guarantee to do? You guarantee to bleed. Guaranteed. That's a byproduct of being cut. There's no way that scientifically you can be cut and not bleed. That's what you expect out of love. You expect as soon as somebody say, I love you, they just start bleeding that laundry list of shit that you have had to love. They start bleeding, not even their own definition. You expect them to start bleeding your definition. You don't even take the time to ask them what their definition is, right? Based on their lived experience. What if it's that little boy that every time he got a whooping by his mama, she said, I whoop you because I love you. And every time he got a whooping by his father, he said, I whoop you because I love you. And then every time his father whooped his mama, he used to hear him also say, I love you. So every demonstration of love he ever received was attached to abuse. And now that's his definition. So he loves you, and he might just crack your cranium and show you how much he cares. We have a hard time understanding that love and adverse behavior can coexist in the same body. We think once love climbs in there, the rest of the stuff just disappears. There's a whole lot of things in a person's life that influences their behavior besides love. I've been argumentative all my life because that was the only way that I could get a point across at home. I never really talked much because anytime I said something, I got shut down. This thing's been there all my life, and I tell you I love you today, and you think it's just something cool, right? Love doesn't make those things disappear. It just pretty much fight for position at the time, right? Love just climbs in your body, and it starts stretching. It's like, whoo, I'm here. And love look to the side, and love see abuse over there. And love see disregard over there. And love see lying. And love see, what is y'all doing here? And they say, what you mean? What you doing here? We own this body. And love said, no, you don't. I own this body now. They said, we're going to see about that. And then they fight. Sometimes love wins. Sometimes you get that black eye and abuse wins. And then other times love wins. And then sometimes infidelity wins. And then you got some people that ain't got nothing but love for you. They ain't got none of the other shit you got in this. They ain't got nothing but the feeling. Right? Remember the 5 heartbeats? I got nothing but love for you. That's what they was talking about. I ain't got shit else but love. Right? And then you start thinking, well, if this is love, then just maybe. My definition of love's a little crazy. If this is love, then just maybe. I don't need you to say. What one calls love, another calls a break off. It's like you're playing on their heartstrings, trying to sell them bullshit services. Definitions can differ like opposing opinions. No pun, but Webster falls short of definitively defining. Let's use this little boy, for example. He gets his definition from his father. His father's demons is his dictionary. So he flipped through the pages of his father's rage, and at a later age, he became an abbreviation of his behavior. Chip off the whole block. They even had the same body definition. They were built the same. They were like physical synonyms. Junior was just a lowercase nutcase, resembled his abusive father to the T. He called himself Alpha Man. Now he's older, got a little girlfriend, and if she ever comes wrong out of her mouth, he teaches her the alphabet. He dot her eyes until she's showing Z's, and then he wake her ass up singing, I got nothing but love for you, baby. But then you got the little girl across the street. Her definition is different. She was raised different. She grew up watching her parents partake in team building. They greet each other through pet names, real animalistic type of love. She was his dove, and he was her wingman. So their little bird seed grew up and adopted everything that they believed. Her definition was written in beautiful calligraphy. She grew up believing love was that stuff in Corinthians. Like love never shows wrath, so she was taught to never get mad, right? Never raise her voice, never raise her hand, always raise her man up in praise. So if they ever got pissed, we just sit in the stench, but pamper each other, give each other huggies until the piss is cleaned up. But now she's older, and she got her one, and she can't figure out while he's acting claustrophobic, because he ain't all gravy with being smut. And she fails to realize that being overly sentiment, that's not part of his definition. He's a fun guy, but he doesn't have much mushroom. So she calls love, he calls a little too touchy. So now she can't quite put her finger on why he don't always want her fingers on him. Two people learning how to love each other is like trying to learn a different language. It takes two linguists to make it work. You just gotta hope that both people are okay with being gay enough to be bilingual. Our definition of love can pigeonhole us. We'll take our definition and we'll impose it on other people like it's scripture. Same thing we do with religion, right? We see somebody who believes in something different than us. What he should be is say, look, this is what I believe in, but this works for me. Whatever it is that you believe in, as long as it's keeping you from slapping somebody's face off, keep believing in that. Now, that's what it should be. No, that's not what we do. You know what we say? We say, this is what I believe in. And anybody who don't believe in this, you're going to hell, right? We do the same thing with our definition of love. This is my definition. And if I see your relationship and they're important to my definition, I will discount your relationship. They don't love each other. Ain't no way that's love. So we'll be pigeonholed by our own definitions to the point where we'll debase somebody else. But we even have the audacity to tell them, I'm not going to love you. Pull out our list, look at this list. My list got sucked toes on it. Can't get your toes sucked there, no way. And even now she's going home, putting her toes on somebody's head so she can figure out if she loved, right? This is what we do. What we got to realize is what we're seeing isn't the love. What we're seeing is what the love has been smothered in, right? Anytime you take something and you smother it in too much of something else, the original thing will lose its identity. It won't go away. It just loses its identity and it assumes the identity of what else has been smothered in, right? I'm gonna give you a prime example that all y'all can relate to. Abs. Everybody in here got abs, but it's smothered in some shit. Abs ain't gone. They still there. They just smothered in some shit. This is the reason why I don't like strawberries on my cheesecake. I want to taste the cheesecake. I don't want to taste cheesecake textured strawberries. I love pancakes. But you put too much syrup, they are horrible. I love French fries. If you put too much ketchup, they are horrible. So most times what we're going to do is we're going to take our pre-existing character traits, and this is what we're going to smother our relationship in. So if I was argumentative before we met, now I'm a smothered relationship in arguments. So now when people see us, they don't see the love, they just see the arguments. If I was selfish, now I'm going to smother my relationship in selfishness. So now when people see us, they just see that selfishness. They don't see the love, they see what's being smothered in. But you can also smother your relationship in positive things, but even that requires balance. You know, it's this disease, not a disease, it's a condition. I can't think of the name of it. It's something you can die from drinking too much water. So the very thing that they tell us we're supposed to consume however many ounces of a day to keep us alive, too much of that thing will kill you. So anything out of balance is bad. This is why my daddy got put out, because the way he loved me was too much. Right? So we can even smother our relationship into too much of the wrong, too much of the right thing. When you smother your relationship in too much stuff that's unfavorable, and love will eventually leave. Ask that man who smothered his relationship in laziness. And he'll tell you, there's something agonizingly alluring about the smell of a giant when he's walking out. It lingers around the wall.
I gotta find a better seat. Let's get it.
Oh, he's going in.
They're done here?
Just 1 second.
to happen to someone else. Love is like an antagonist for emotion. It just show up and be fucking with emotion. Just be fucking with emotion. Just emotion like stop, nigga, stop. Love like, come on, baby, it's me, man. I know it's you, and that's the problem. Just stop. And love like, come on, what you got going on? I ain't got nothing going on. And if it's okay with you, I want to keep it that way. No, just come on, man. Come fuck with me, babe. No, I'm not fucking with you. Because every time I fuck with you, the next morning I got a whole list of people that I got to go say, I'm sorry. I just said that because I was emotional, right? So I'm not fucking with you. It's like love is like a growth hormone for emotion. And the more love you have for a person, the more emotionally you're impacted by their behavior, right? You can walk down the street and a stranger can say, hey, stupid. You're like, who the fuck is this? And keep walking. By the end of the day, you don't even remember it happened, right? The person you love call you stupid, boom, psychological damage for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? And the biggest misconception on planet Earth in women, listen, if you didn't hear nothing else I said tonight, hear this. Because the world charges you with this. Oh, damn, that failed. You mean school over. Shit. Because y'all got them cameras on, I would have been on the computer before the show was over. This nigga fell off the stool. Yeah. So women, listen, the world charges y'all with this responsibility and it's an injustice. You shouldn't assume this task. But the biggest misconception on planet Earth when it comes to love or emotion is you have to be able to control your emotion, right? You hear that? You got to be able to control your emotion. Come on, you got to do something about that. You got to control your emotion. That's the biggest misconception on planet. You can't control emotion. Emotion is involuntary. I guarantee I can speak for everybody in this room. There's not a person in here who saw something that happened and then picked how you wanted to feel, who looked at it and said, you know what, I don't feel like being sad today. So yeah, I'm okay. Never in your life. What happens is something happens, you see it, and boom, you become the victim of a feeling. All you are is the response agent. You become a victim of a feeling, and now you have to decide how you're going to respond to that feeling. You can sit there and contemplate it responsibly, or you can have a knee-jerk reaction and then have to apologize the next day to a bunch of people. I'm sorry, I just said that because I was emotional. But you can't control emotion. The only thing that you can do is control how you respond to it. That's the only thing that you can do. This is why I don't trust people to speak on behalf of their emotions. I don't care what you say. Emotions don't give a fuck about your agreements. You can tell a person, listen, I'm going to tell you everything about me. Everything that I think may be unbecoming later on, I'm going to tell you now. I'm exposing. So you can have all the information you need to make an informed decision on how you want to coexist with me. And you can say it all. And then the person says, you know what, I'm absolutely okay with that. I agree. I'm kind of in the same place myself, so that's absolutely cool. And your emotions like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. As soon as you kiss me, we finna have a motherfucking fall. And the second you miss a text message, I'm tearing all this shit up. So your emotions don't care nothing about your agreements. I had a friend of mine. Most of us only know who we are within the level of emotion that we have experienced. I had a friend of mine, and she told me, she said, she had a friend. She said such and such is crazy. Every time she gets into it with her boyfriend, she be cutting their tires and bleaching their clothes, and there's nothing that a man gonna ever do that's gonna put me in a position where I'm gonna start acting like that. And then she got a boyfriend. And guess what she started doing? Cutting ties and bleaching clothes, the exact same thing. You know what she did? She was telling me who she knew herself to be based on the level of emotion that she had experienced. And then she was introduced to a heightened level of emotion that she never experienced, and simultaneously, she was introduced to a version of herself that she never even knew existed. So you can't trust people to speak on behalf of their emotions, especially if you're trying to require your emotions to do something they never did your whole life. You've been married for 132 years, and that's all you know is exclusivity. You look at sex as a spiritual connection, not just a physical connection, but a soul tie. You look at it as a spiritual connection. You look at it as I take seriously who I give my temple to. So I got to take this person seriously too. And then one of you say, I'm going to do something different. I'm just going to have casual sex. It ain't going to fucking work, right? Your emotion Or have you doing things that you don't even advocate for? Have you doing things that you would never advise nobody else to do? Men too. Men too. Have you in situations you can't believe you in? You be sitting in therapy telling the therapist, listen, I already know that we ain't good for each other. I get it. I understand. We've been at this shit for years. And trying to break the cycle is like waiting for menopause. At least once a month, my dirty deeds bleed over into her seat, and she just soaks it up like always. Eventually, she's forced to reciprocate. Now it's back and forth, tit for tat like tennis players. I guess the one who causes the most scars wins the applause. I guess we two lovers who just show love by tearing each other apart. And a wounded heart will use revenge as a first aid kit. It's like we in here lighting chitlin incense. The whole house smells like toxins, but for some reason it's just too tough to leave. And you know what she told me? The other day she told me, she said there's something about a man that will dig as deep as he can to dig himself out of a hole he's dug. See, she can see my love behind my lies. She's paralyzed by my good side, but despite my malice, she can't move on without me. You know, one thing we always gonna do, we always gonna fuss. But no matter how red this pain paints her face, the only other thing we're gonna do is we gonna make up. And there's something about the adrenaline rush of a grudge fuck that's groundbreaking. There's something about a broken heart that fucks harder. When you go from mad to mad, horny, kissing feels like cannibalization. This little bitch trying to eat my face off. So I fight back with bottom lip bites and then rush to the bed and we battle each other, headboards banging like I'm trying to conceive Satan's baby. And the more she hates me, the harder she comes. So next time it just motivates me to mess up more. I understand I ain't good for it. We're like hugging horror stories. Family and friends, they don't want to hear it no more. They're tired of us crying to them and then fixing it. They're tired of us clawing each other's eyes out and then seeing it through. We've normalized dysfunction like it's fun to us. We kick around insults like insoles. We compete by placing our petty back to back. We take 10 paces, turn, pull, hair triggered tongues like we trying to kill each other with unkindness. And if I go first, she probably get off by keying my casket. See, this is what we call passion, spazzing, debasing, and throwing daggers to see who cuts deep in. If you hurt me, I'll make you cry. And if you make me cry, I'll make you bleed. Until we both just two puddles of short people. And then it's all resolved and put back together with a simple, I'm sorry. I just said all that stuff. I understand this type of stuff messes up heads, but I figure as long as we mess up each other, then we can stay messed up together. I know I ain't good for it, but we complement each other's dysfunction and trying to disassemble it feel like being dismembered. We probably fall apart at the limbs. I understand that I'm not good for it, but I think we're addicted to the damage. And I've seen proven cases where heroin addicts died while trying to kick the habit. They would have lived longer, they would have kept using. So we're just gonna keep using.
It's crazy.
Toxic relationships is like 5-year-long car accident. You know, when you're in a car accident, there's an adrenaline rush. And during that adrenaline rush, you don't recognize the internal damage that's being done. You know what I mean? You can see the physical damage. If you hit your head on the steering wheel, you can see that damage, but you don't recognize the internal damage until a couple of days later when the adrenaline has went away and now you figure out you can't even move. You just hurt, you're immobile. You know what I mean? That's how toxic relationships are. When you're in the relationship, there's just a surplus of adrenaline and you don't realize the internal damage that's being done. And then you leave the relationship and you're no longer under the influence of the adrenaline and you realize that you're just broke and emotionally immobile. You know what I mean? And toxic relationships seems to be, I don't even know if they're on an all-time high or if they've always been there, but social media is just giving us more access. But toxic relationships are everywhere. And they tend to last just as long as healthy relationships. So I came up with 3 reasons why I think these relationships are so prevalent. One is I think people get addicted to the toxicity. I spent a long time in the military, long enough to retire. And I remember on my last day in the military, And it's weird when you dedicate so much of your life to an organization that's so restricting. They tell you what to do, tell you where to go, tell you when to come back, tell you where to wear. They monitor your whereabouts, all these things, right? It controls your life more than anything else. And when it's all over, you walk in this little office, they give you a folder with some files in it and a flag, and they be like, thank you. At that point, you're not even employed by them no more. You just walk off. I imagine what it feels like getting out of prison, right? So I'm standing in that office and I see this guy and he got a full face of hair. He's been retired for a while, but he came back up there because he needed some assistance with something. And I asked him, I said, bro, what's been the biggest task for you transitioning from the military to civilian life? And he told me, I can't find nothing on the outside that gives me the adrenaline rush I had when I was here. So it's very hard for me to be happy. So I find myself doing reckless stuff like skydiving and hang gliding. Ain't that when you strap a kite on the back of your ass and jump off a mountain? Hang gliding. Because he's trying to find the adrenaline he had when he was part of that organization, right? Then I heard a young lady on a podcast. She said she was in a relationship and the relationship was just tumultuous. That's my first time ever using that word. It was tumultuous. And it was always fighting. It was always just splashing. And she said at some point she got fed up and she decided to leave and she left and she found someone else. In the other relationship, it wasn't that way. You know what I mean? She said it was peaceful. It was never any fighting. She got bored. She didn't feel valued, and she went back to the other relationship. So I think people become accustomed to the adrenaline and toxicity, and they can't get away from it. Second reason is I think we associate love with effort. Try, make an effort, make an effort, make an effort. Show me you love me, make an effort, which I'm absolutely okay with. But I think the problem is we haven't figured out how to differentiate effort from dysfunction, right? We think that those words are interchangeable, effort and dysfunction. I've seen cases where a woman, and it was a woman who did it, I ain't picking on women, would say something to try to get her man riled up like she's watching TV and say, "Ooh, you fine as hell," to get a reaction out of this man. And when the man don't give a reaction, it's like, you must not even care about me. But if he would have jacked her ass up and just strung her up on the wall and said, "You better not in your motherfucking life say somebody else cute in front of me." As soon as her feet hit the ground, she would have jumped on the phone. "Girl, I call somebody cute. You can have me hung up on the wall. He loved me." So we associate dysfunction with effort. This lady messaged me, don't know who she is, never met her before. For whatever reason, she thinks that I give good relationship advice. And she DM'd me and told me about a situation. She said, "I need some advice. There was a guy who I was with. Him and I, we splashed, fell out. And I decided to leave. And I told him, don't contact me no more." So I blocked him on everything. I blocked him on the phone, all social media, any way that we were able to contact each other. I severed those ties. And now I'm upset because he ain't tried to get in contact with me. I said, "How was he supposed to get in contact with you?" She said, "He IT, he can get through that stuff." This is a true story. So I asked her, I said, "I'm going to regurgitate what you said to make sure I understand. You set a boundary. Not only did you set a boundary, but you put things in place to enforce the boundary. It's one thing to set a boundary, but still make yourself available. You set a boundary, but you put steps in place to enforce the boundary, and now you don't think he cares because he won't violate your boundary. You don't think he cares because he won't honor your no. You know how many women there is on earth that wish their no had been honored? And she never responded. I think the other reason why these toxic relationships are so prevalent because we don't have a rule book that tells us what to fight for, right? We see these relationships from our elders, these people who were born in the early 1900s, and these relationships lasted 60, 70 years. And we emulate that. We emulate the time frame. But that's like emulating a billionaire. You emulate what the billionaire has, but you don't want no parts of what the billionaire had to go to in order to get to that. So we emulate the time frame, not even considering that these were times where these women weren't raised to be themselves. They were raised to be who they needed to be so they didn't get punched in the mouth. Listen, if that man get mad, just be quiet. Just don't say nothing. If he wrong, he right. As long as he keep providing, and this is what they was raised to do. So this is why the relationship lasts, right? So we don't know how to differentiate when to fight to stay versus when to fight to leave. We don't know the difference between a healthy, problem-solving relationship versus a problematic relationship. If I have a healthy, problem-solving relationship, this means it's me and somebody else. And we're in a relationship. And whenever there's a problem in the relationship, instead of looking across the room, we're going to look inward. We're going to ask ourselves, how did I contribute to this problem? And then we're going to go talk to each other. We're going to create a space that makes both people feel comfortable with holding the conversation. You're not going to feel like you're being talked at. You're going to feel like I'm inviting you into a conversation. We're going to discuss the issue. We're going to fix that issue. We're going to put it behind us. And then we're going to prepare ourselves for the next one because another one is coming, right? So if I'm in a relationship with you and you stacking the dishes face up, and I'm like, all my life, my mama stacked the dishes with the opening down. And now every time I open this cabinet, you got the dishes face up. And you say, well, it don't make no sense to stack them with the face down because blah, 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 blah. And you give me a reason that makes sense. And I say, you know what? I never thought about that. You got a point. Okay, face up it is. That's a healthy problem-solving relationship that you fight to stay in. But then you have these relationships with people and they say, listen, I got a character flaw that I know is there. But I benefit from this character flaw one way or the other. And this character flaw ain't going to serve you well, but I have no intentions on fixing it. So you're either going to stay and deal with it or you're going to leave. And then you stay and deal with it because you want to continue to reap the other benefits that this person brings to the table, right? That's the relationship we got to fight to get away from. There was a college kid and somebody walked up to all these college kids and asked them, give me your unpopular opinion. And this young man said, my unpopular opinion is the world calls it domestic violence, I call it discipline. And the guy said, explain. He said, when I was younger, if I did something wrong, I got disciplined. So I don't understand why in a relationship, if my spouse does something wrong, why I just can't discipline her the same way? It worked for me. He was probably 21, 22 years old. So he's going to go into a relationship already introducing abuse. If you with me, you have to deal with it, and we're going to call it discipline. He's going to meet a young lady. His young lady has grandparents and mothers who've been together for 60 to 70 years. She's emulating that. They're going to get married. After they get married, after about a month, she's going to do something that he considered wrong, and he's going to comb her motherfucking head. And she's going to call her grandmother, and she's going to say, I can't do this. I got to get out of this relationship. And she's going to say, baby, you don't know what it is to fight for a relationship. You give up too easy. And now this little girl ain't going to feel like abuse is a justifiable reason to leave a relationship. She's going to feel like she can't leave because her vows say until death do us part and she ain't dead yet. So for those three reasons is why I think these toxic relationships are so widespread. And I think what happens is we spend time breaking each other. So now if you're a person that's above 40 and you find somebody your age, more than likely there's something that's broke. And you got to figure out whether you want to stand in there and deal with the trauma response from a lived experience in order for you to be in that relationship. She told me, she said over the last few years, the only male that ever walked through her front door, he was dressed in an envelope, his name was Bill, and she had to pay to keep him turned on. She said the closest that she's been to intimacy is appointments with her OBGYN. He would open her up, see whether or not she's been touched ever since the last heart injury. She said before me, the only man that ever laid a hand on her furniture was the store salesman. So you should have saw the way her curtains played blind as I draped her with kisses. Holding her body, I can sense the uncertainty. Her body would tremble like drum cymbals. Her libido wanted to play it brave, but her heart was confused by the French kisses like it was a foreign language, like she was being kissed with a forked tongue. She said her last mate was a snake. He was great at first till he started to shed his fake skin. Now his real scales weighing heavy on her. She used to use kissing as a form of connection, but she said the only thing that her ex-mate wore on his lips was wet lies. His eyes looked like broken promises. His fingers looked like cheating paraphernalia. His breath smelled like adultery. His tongue tasted like the neighbor's wife, and his dick smelled like community trash. So now she's convinced that any mammal with a penis should be drowned in the Pacific and made food for the piranhas. He snatched her soul. So when I hugged her, her heart feels like a lone organ just wandering around the hollow hallways of her chest. She lost the ability to differentiate love from being led on. So now to love her means to help her carry all that baggage until we can both find a place to bury it. In relationships, the hard part is trying to repair the hard parts. All my promises sound like propaganda, like I'm running to be elected to be her next ex-husband. She built this electric fence around her chest, so I'm shocked whenever she allows me to get close to her. No matter how much she tries, she can't hide the broken trust. She said the last time she saw it whole was during her sea salt relationship, right before he sawed it in half, blew sawdust in her eyes, gone. She just sawdust. So what do you do when you develop a love for someone who regrets they ever knew love? When you develop an appetite for someone who tastes like bitter leftovers because they've been marinating in pain for years? How do you convince your heart that the beating it's taking isn't personal? You just with a person who keeps lugging around this big purse full of abuse. What do you do when all the blame seems to be on you for stuff that you didn't even do, right? When she tells you your love looks too much like lust, when the reality is she's just confused because her last mate made lust look too much like love. How do you silence that little voice in your head when it says to you, brothers? Lord knows that we love her to death. But have you ever considered that she might be broken beyond repair? And every day that we live is one day less that we have left, and we can't let her nor our past discredit our current work. How do you love someone that's seemingly already given up on love? How do you subdue the residue? For me personally, I think one of my biggest hindrances for togetherness has been peace of mind. Not an absence of peace of mind, but too much peace of mind. I remember I was 17 years old, sitting in my living room playing Sega Genesis. I hear a Hispanic man in my living room. My mother, first of all, never had men in the house, and I ain't know her to know no Hispanic man, so I'm absolutely befuddled. So I walk out the room, and it's a man sitting there in a military uniform, a recruiter. He was in a lower income neighborhood in Los Angeles where he knew the best house on the neighborhood was still somebody who was struggling. He knew that everybody's most taxing expense was probably rent. He knew that feeding our families was probably the toughest thing to do. And he told me, he said, listen, I can take you somewhere where you can eat for free, live for free, and still get paid every 14 days. So he figured out what my void was, and he dangled that void in front of my face. And I chased that answer without inquiring about what all the threats was associated to it. So if you find out what a person's void is, and then you dangle the answer in front of their face, they'll follow you. They're not going to even inquire about what risk. I didn't ask about war or nothing. I just wanted what he said that I never had, right? If he would have went to a well-off, fluid area, and he would have went in there with that same pitch and said, hey, I can take you somewhere where you can eat for free, and you can have a house, and you don't have to pay rent, and you get paid every 14 days. They would have said, you're not offering me nothing I don't already have, so why would I take the chance at that? Why would I take the chance of being away from my family and going to war for you to give me something I got here? The pitch wouldn't have worked, because they're already in a comfortable space. So when you find somebody and their happiness is dependent on love, not even personal love, but receiving love from an external force, external source, and they don't feel like they can be happy unless they're loved by somebody, if you dangle anything in front of their face that look like love, they probably don't follow you, and they're not going to even inquire about the risk associated with it. They don't care if you're abusive. They don't care what it is. They just know that I can't be happy unless I had this love, and you got this love on the string, right? But when you go to somebody that's already figured out how to love themselves, who has a level of peace that they've never ever experienced before, anything you dangling in front of their face gonna look like a threat. It's gonna look like, I don't know, because that's gonna add requirements to my life that I don't already have. I don't know about that, because that's gonna have me doing stuff like compromising that I ain't gotta do right now. I don't know about that. Everything looks like it's gonna ruin your peace of mind. And that's been my problem with being open. So sometimes I just wish I can be a little bit more open. I wish care and claustrophobia didn't share the same face. Sometimes too much love just feels like a too tight hug or a headlock with no key. It's just hard for me to breathe. I just wish feelings didn't feel so foreign, right? Just so far away. I can write a beautiful love poem. It's just very hard for me to live one. Sometimes I just want to be a little bit more open. But every time I give it a shot, it feels like bullet wounds. I want to be open like arms when they're signaling infinite. I want to be open like I belong, or like I belong to something greater than myself. I want to be open like minded, but mine isn't. Mine is a euphemism for insane. I won't say that, but I will say I'm about 6 seconds from being sent to the 6th floor where the sickos are. I'm not the one that's referred to as the guy with, I'm more, rather than being referred to as the guy with the googly eyes, I just want to be a little bit more open. I want to be subject to being put up under a spell that spell check can't correct. Most people wear their emotions. I'm more like, where are my emotions? I want to be able to connect on a level that's deeper than 6 inches below the seams of her jeans. I want to debunk the opine that open is a boat lock. So I Botox, I blow up at the sound of it, right? I want to be commandeered by a heart that has common goals. But as far as karma goes, I just don't feel like I'm eligible. I just want to be a little bit more open. I want to stop hoarding my sentiments. The main reason most women can't stand the scent of men, but I'm a synonym for closed in, rigid, a billboard for no bin, but I want to be more open. I want to be open, like the German Autobahn. I'm an Audi R8. Open, like I'm not always bothered by you wanting to be bothered by me because you believe by me is better than buying weed, higher than marijuana leaves. We can sit and just silence all these television screens and the cellular rings, right? We can look and your heart becomes my cinema. Your eyes become my center of my attention. Every conversation is open. Nothing is off the table. Open to your privacy like your gynecologist. I want to be stupid open. Like answer my phone for it. Matter of fact, transfer my calls to your phone while I go over here and find silence. I find solace whenever I'm alongside of you. Now the thought of you and I in solitude no longer feels like a siren or an invasion because the way you love me no longer feels invasive. I just want to be more open. I want to be open like opium, open like AMPM, open like OPEN rather than PEN because currently any subject and predicate too connected to feelings just feel like a prison sentence. Last thing that I want to leave y'all with. I want to give y'all my opinion of defining love. I think love, before I do that, I want to talk about if you are looking for love, and love is the only thing that you're looking for, I think we're missing the mark. I don't think love dictates behavior. I had a friend of mine, I asked him, have you ever wanted to cuss out your mother for something? He's like, hell yeah. I said, but do you love her? I said, have you ever did it? Hell no, I ain't never cussed out my mama. I said, you ever had a cousin or another relative, somebody else you love, that you ever wanted to cuss out? He was like, hell yeah. I said, what you do? He said, I cussed their ass out. I said, so you love your mother and you love this other relative. Both of them are love, but what made this one be eligible to be cussed out but not your mom? He's like, I can't cuss out my mom. I just got this high level of regard for my mama. Regard. I think regard dictates behavior. Love is pretty much the feeling. I know you've seen millions of situations where a person's love and also being mistreated. So love is the feeling. I believe behavior is dictated by regard. You got people that work for you or work with you that respect you more, have more regard for you, and they treat you better than a person that loves you at home with no regard. So I think if you're just looking for love, you're missing the mark. I think the ingredient to being treated right is finding someone who regards you. I'd rather have regard and not be loved than be loved by someone who doesn't regard. When it comes to defining love, if the dictionary said, if it said that love is a strong feeling you have for another person, then that means I can't love my dog. I can't love the physical space that I created for myself, my home. I can't love my mental space. I can't love anything else because it's specified. It's a feeling that you have for a person, right? So I think when you define love, you limit love to whatever those words are that's within your definition. I think love is way too dynamic to be limited to a set of words that you can put into a sentence. So I think every time you try to define it, you limit it. It's something that you left out. I think love is just one of those things you just recognize when you feel it and you be intentional about how you operate within it. So here's the last thing that I want to leave y'all with. All you lovebirds, don't even ruffle your feathers. Just let love do what it does naturally. You don't even have to work on it. Too much effort in the wrong area is in vain, like heroin. And in most cases, love is just false pretense for strong ties. And depending on your school of thought, love and hate can easily be classmates. Same graduating day, which means I love your well-being, but I can't stand you as a human being, so I wish you well. I just wish you do that shit well away from me. A very common dynamic amongst a lot of us in our family, right? Divorce courts have a long list of lovers who are anxious to leave each other. What I've learned is negligent use of the term can be brainwashing. No matter how they're spelled, love and long-lasting don't share the same L. Again, love and long-lasting don't share the same L. The L that you're looking for is succeeded by the sound Ike. Ike, Ike, like is the liquid glue that holds relationships together. Love is just a mixed signal that allows lost relationships to linger. You rarely leave who you like, but that shit rarely lasts if it's just love. Like will make the love stronger, but if it's just love minus the like, that just allows you to fake for the kids. So it's absolutely okay if you ask your mate, hey, do you love me? And they say, no, I don't. But just hang in there and we'll get there, right? But if you ask your mate, do you love me? And they say no, at that point, it's time to let the relationship go. Thank y'all.
Obbie.
Come on,